My name's Jay, here at Jaye-vyJonesMTG. This is the Grim Captain's Locker, and these are the 7 things I wish I knew as a newbie. EDH lessons the hard way. When I was new, I thought I knew what was going on. I had started in Standard and did pretty well there, and Buddy had talked me into coming over and trying some Elder Dragon Highlander. I immediately dove in head first and figured out that I wanted to throw as many fatties onto the board as possible, which is almost the opposite of how I play today, but at the time, my Kalia deck was a weapon of mass destruction, and I wanted to get her out quickly, haste her, and turn her sideways with a fatty attached. Nowadays, I realize that that is, well, a valid playstyle, not the one I enjoy the most. So let's jump right into 7 things I wish I knew when I was brand new to Commander. Number 1, your commander doesn't need to be your win con. It's an engine, it's synergy, it's a benefit to your deck. When you look at your commander less as, this is the deck, this is what I need to build around, and more of, if I had one card in my deck that was always in my hand, what would I want? It's revolutionary to the way you play the game. Choosing a commander that is the card you always want in your hand and not necessarily the end goal gives you so many more options. It can make commanders that would have seemed boring all of a sudden seem quite interesting. Taking a peek at my deck list, I have some commanders that are a bit, I don't want to say bland, but not flashy. One of my favorite decks is Galadriel, Light of Valinor. 2 in Bant. She's a 3/3 elf noble that reads Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. Can add 3 green, put a +1/1 counter on each creature you control, or scry 2, then draw a card. Alone, she wants you to have creatures enter the battlefield. She wants you to have creatures enter the battlefield on multiple turns, not just your own. That's a very, very, very loose game plan, and that's fantastic. I enjoy the process of deck building, and having a commander that doesn't ram you into a particular build style means your deck is going to feel like your deck, rather than just the EDH rec pile that some hyper-specific commanders can kind of force themselves into. EDH Recast has a very interesting video on the analytics they've ran on which commanders have the most sameness between decks. And there's a lot of particularly very niche commander decks that have, they run 60, 70, 80, 90% the same cards as far as non-lands go. And those are ones that I like to stay away from. I like to keep it fresh and be able to kind of know what we're looking at. The second thing I wish I knew when I started was don't overcommit to the board. In the Kalia example, the perfect start of, you turn 1, get your land drop, play a Soul Ring, play a Signet, play a Blood Pet. Turn 2, you get out Kalia, you put the boots, you turn her sideways, you put in. That doesn't win you the game. It makes you a lot of enemies, and it makes you scary. It draws in interaction, which if that's something that you want to do, that's fine. But the first person off the block doesn't necessarily win. Have a recent video of slow down to win more games, and definitely recommend giving that a watch if you'd like more information on this. But overcommitment to the board is one of the worst things you can do. If your deck is based on it, there's a time you need to do so. But if you think back to recent games you've played, how many games have gone past turn, let's say 6, without a board wipe? I would argue very few. Assuming you're playing in a reasonably interactive pod, somebody is playing a more controlling deck, and somebody is going to board wipe by turn 6. By planning for that, and only committing what you need to advance your plan rather than everything you can afford as soon as you can afford it, you're giving yourself room to recover after that inevitable board wipe lands. The third thing I wish I knew was play more card draw than you think. Those card draw is, at least to most new players, kind of boring. You're spending mana and you're not getting anything. It's not tangible. It's a retirement plan. It's delayed gratification. And that can be difficult. It's very easy to look at a consider or an opt or a read the bones and go, I'll cut this and put in, 8-drop destroyer of worlds. And you really shouldn't. When helping friends with deck building, I always recommend don't cut card draw. If you're looking for cards to cut, take the draw category out. Because it gives you options. Every card is either a problem you can present to your opponents or an answer for a problem that they present to you. And by limiting the amount of cardboard you see, you're limiting the amount of problems and answers that you have access to. I very rarely feel like I've wasted my time in a game, except for games where either, mana is, you're dealing with mana screw, or you don't draw. There's nothing worse than having a card or 0 cards in hand, and you just aren't pulling what you need. So by nature, run more lands and draw more cards very rarely will lead you wrong. Number 4, politics matter more than power. This, simply put, takes time and table experience and comfortability to learn, but it isn't always about alpha plays. That massive alpha strike very rarely gains you anything. So many Voltron decks, I've played against Light Paw's deck recently, that if you don't have something out to block, and even if you do, by the time Light Paws gets trample, it can kill you very quickly. But somebody's going to get it off the board, and even if you've killed one player, you're now just making yourself second to die, and I don't really enjoy decks that play for third. Being able to communicate and having the game knowledge to point things out. I try not to overstep, but if I see a card that's often a combo piece, I don't need to warn the table and annoyingly, hey everyone, we need to destroy that. I'll just ask the player, hey, is that a combo piece? And it puts the onus on them. It's not disrespectful in any way, but they either say, yes, that is a combo piece, or they say, no, it's not, to which point the social contract of the game, kind of expects that they won't lie there. It's not illegal, but it's definitely frowned upon and something that I wouldn't do or recommend. It gives you a bad reputation. So a simple question of an innocuous card comes out, and a brand new player would look at a reassembling skeleton and assume it's fine. But a more experienced player might know that can be used as a combo piece in a variety of engines. Some players just play it for value. If it's being played for value, no worries. You want a repeatable sack engine, I'm not worried, or sack outlet. Sack outlet, sack target. That's absolutely fine. But if it's part of an infinite mana, infinite death trigger combo, I'd like to know so I can go out of my way to exile it. And that lets the table know as well. Oftentimes, the player most likely or most wanting to drop cardboard will do so. All it takes is a nudge in the right direction. Also, clocks. If someone has a 11/11 flyer out, it's good to note that, hey, that will kill anyone in 2 turns. The first person, or if he swings it at someone else, we better get that off the board, because if that hits you again, you'll die. Might be political power. If you have removal, you might be able to negotiate with them. So being unafraid to talk to the other players, it's a social format. So if you're not talking and you're only basing on mechanics, I think there's better formats to do so. If you go to a local modern tournament, and there's not a lot of politicking going on, I'll tell you that. So engage with what makes Commander unique. Number 5, you don't need expensive cards to win. When I was newer, I hadn't been collecting, so I was buying cards for decks. I was buying cards specifically to put decks together, buying cards to upgrade my decks, and it can get expensive. One of my good friends, Jake at the time, had been collecting for years and had a ton of cards. And when I'd lose, it sounds a bit negative, but I would think this, you have expensive cards. That's why. And you need to embrace as early as possible. It's really not the cost of the deck. You can, obviously as an extreme example, but if you buy a bunch of Arabian Nights cards, you can make a $2,000 deck that's unplayably bad. There's plenty of restricted list cards that are horrible. And you could make some, there's some budget CEDH type decks, or, very like competitive popper decks that if you're not prepared for it can combo off incredibly early. But if you look and you're chasing for synergy and you're chasing the experience rather than a cost, there's no need to be salty about expensive cards. There's plenty of inexpensive cards that are oppressive and horrible to play against. And there's plenty of expensive cards that are a lot of fun and unique. So don't let the price drive your decision making too much. I now have been collecting for much longer, so I have cards that are expensive, but it's not necessarily, if I have an $800 deck, that doesn't mean I went out and spent $800 to acquire the deck. So I also recommend everybody do some budget brewing. Whether you put the deck together or not, I think having the ability to build a deck on a $50 budget really, and sometimes lower than that, but I think 50 is a good number for most purposes. It improves your deck building skills. Not being able to go to those staples can help a ton, because the reason they are expensive is, basic supply and demand. Demand is higher because they're good in every deck. A niche tap card that is a rock star in a Hilda of the Icy Crown deck isn't going to be as popular as a Rhystic Study, which from a mechanical standpoint, every deck that can run blue should run it. Side note, I'm not a fan of the card, but it's part of the game, unfortunately. Yeah, you don't need expensive cards to win. Number 6, you're going to misplay, and that's fine. Not wanting to interact or being worried to miss a trigger or, miscast something sequencing-wise, it happens. I can't imagine. It's like telling someone was wanting to play basketball, you're telling a new person, well, don't shoot the ball because you might miss. It's horrible advice. Go ahead, build those more complex decks. Experiment. Work in more instant speed interaction. Learn about the stack. If you're wrong, any Magic players are going to tell you. And most people are pretty cool about it. Ask questions. If you don't understand an interaction somebody's doing, or you think something works a certain way, don't be afraid to say, hey, I don't know if this works, but is it okay if we go ahead and try to walk through it? And any experienced player that's remotely reasonable is going to help you. If you're at a shop, there's usually a judge or judge adjacent type player that's more than happy to walk through, but fire away. So many people, I think, are stuck in the brand new mono green Timmy phase for too long because and not that there's anything bad about it. Some people start other ways and come back to it, but they're worried about messing up, and it's a lot harder to mess up. I play a bunch of creatures and an overwhelming stampede and turn them sideways than it is, a more complex control or combo oriented deck. Go ahead and let it fly. You're going to misplay, and if you're wrong, and you either walk it back or you live with the consequences and go from there. I recently, in the last year or so, have really tried to have a zero go back policy. If board information has changed or somebody else's go back has altered my decision making, I'll go ahead and take that if it's offered. But if I misplay something, I don't ask for a replay. I think the experience of messing up is pivotal to learning to become a better Magic player, because you see, okay, I sequenced that wrong, or you see your other options that oftentimes don't become obvious until you've missed them. Also, sometimes opponents will point out opportunities of, oh, well, you could have done it this way. But by the nature of the game and them being an opponent, by the time they've noted that, it's probably too late. Number 7, instant speed interaction is king. This is huge. Newer players often check out of the game. You go, okay, I play my land, I tap my land on turn 5, I play my 7-drop creature, and I pass because I can't attack. And they tap out, and then they pull their phone out, and they wait until it comes back around, or until they say, hey, Jay, you're being attacked. Having instant speed interaction lets you play more Magic. And when I'm playing Control, I'm the most locked in at the table. every phase, every action my opponents take, I keep an eye on it because I have the opportunity to do something. I have the opportunity to make a decision and affect the game. When you've tapped out and you don't have any, activated abilities or anything you can do to interact at instant speed, you're essentially watching someone else play Magic rather than interacting with them. You are, I'll say Nerf Blaster, but you're covering them with an unloaded Nerf Blaster rather than keeping it loaded so you're able to respond in case you're being attacked. The amount of times that someone chooses not to attack into me rather than somebody else because I have mana open and they know that I am able and willing to respond is absolutely insane. If you haven't done it, try it, and it's not blue only. There's plenty of non-blue decks that have a lot of instant speed interaction. It's a bit harder, but with artifacts, with recently Tago Goblin Weaponsmith is a fantastic example. Had a ton. I used to run a Prosper deck. This sounds fairly hipsterish, but Prosper got a lot too popular for me to enjoy it, so I ended up pulling the deck apart. But having the ability to, fling from a Death Toucher and remove creatures is fantastic, and it just gives you so much more room to play. Overall, Commander is a format full of stories. I think building decks to tell stories and making your Commander games as enjoyable as possible for you and your friends is what separates it from Friday Night Magic tournament grinding. You can have a blunder, it's okay, laugh about it, make it a joke. If somebody else blunders, pat them on the back, make it funny, have fun. Build decks that are fun to play and fun to play against, and you'll have a great time. I'm Jaye-vyJones. Let's go ahead and cut that off here. This is a little bit of a different script than we've been doing. If you enjoy talking about Magic, you enjoy this type of content, please leave a like, please subscribe. Give me a comment with any tips that you wish you knew when you started playing Magic. Thank you so much.